Welcome back to Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. I'm your studio host, Oren Stewart. Stay tuned. We have another amazing show in store for you. We'll be right back.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Once again, thank you for joining us here at Checking In. I am your studio host, Oren Stewart, and now let us introduce our host, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch and Leon Thomas. How are you both?
Great. How are you?
Doing well. Have a great show.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks, Oren. Miranda, what's happening? Good.
All good things are happening.
Yeah. A lot of cool things happening with us here, the Leon Thomas Group, and right here on Checking In, we're here for episode number 9.
Woohoo!
Yes, we are rocking on, having a good time doing it. You still getting good feedback about the show?
Tons of good feedback. So many people are reaching out. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're getting it too. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, it's real simple. You can send me an email. Send it to leonthetrainer@gmail.com. Again, that's leonthetrainer@gmail.com. Or you can communicate with Miranda via email. And how do they do that?
Yep, it's mkitterl@fiu.edu. You can also just Google Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. Very easy to find, very hard to hide.
Very easy to find, very hard to hide. But go ahead, do that line, my favorite line that I like. Come on, come on. I gotta have it every week. Come on, do that line. How's it
I
go?
gotta
How's it
give
go?
you what you want.
Yeah.
You can Google me, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. I guarantee you I'm the only one you're going to find.
Yes, that's it. I guarantee. And again, there's thousands of Leon Thomases, so I can't use that line. I'm so jealous, so jealous. I like that you're doing that. So, yeah, we have another great guest for today for episode 9 of Checking In. Miranda, tell us about our guest.
Yeah, I'm so excited that she has time to join us because I'm a big fan of the things that she's doing. It's Emily Goldfischer, and she's the founder and editor-in-chief at Hertelier, which is, I'm sure, I can't imagine any one of our listeners are not familiar with Hertelier. And if they are, definitely check it out. And I'm excited for her to share more about it with
Yeah,
us
right
today.
on. Well, let's bring Emily on and have her join the show and be part of this great conversation we're going to have. Hey, Emily, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction.
Of course, I'm a big fan of everything that you're doing. I love your publication.
Well, thanks. I've appreciated your contributions to it. I really love the story that you wrote, and that I've been able to tap on you as a resource when looking for, the academic research and information. And you've done so much great research and work in the area of, women in hospitality. So it's
Thank you.
been a
It's been a
great
pleasure to do it.
collaboration.
Yes, absolutely. Leon, did you have anything? Or
Nope, go right ahead.
okay. As I was saying, I can't imagine anybody's not familiar with Hertelier, but just in case there are people listening who are not yet have not yet discovered it, could you tell us a little bit about you and about Hertelier?
Sure. Thank you. I hope that your listeners know about Hertelier, and I also hope that there are listeners that maybe don't know about it and are going to find the site. But Hertelier started about a year and a half ago, in March of 2021, and I basically had noticed I'm a journalist. I write for QuestX and some other publications about the hotel industry. And before that, actually, I had worked for Lowe's Hotels for many years. I know in Miami you have a big one, and actually Lowe's just opened up another property in Coral Gables. And yeah, so my background was PR and communications, and I'm just a real hotel nerd. I actually went to Cornell and studied at the hotel school there, and worked in operations as well, but found my calling in public relations and communications, and worked for Lowe's for many years. And then I moved with my family to London about 12 years ago. And at that point, I became a journalist. And as a journalist, I noticed that there were more and more women taking bigger roles within luxury hospitality, specifically in the hotel business. And I also noticed that like there wasn't really coverage about it, and there wasn't a platform or a place where if I'm a woman working in a hotel that I could go to find information, to find community, and just knowledge about working in hotels. So that was the inspiration. The pandemic hit, and I was like, if I'm ever going to start something, this is it. And off we went, and that was it. So and Hertelier, actually, last week was our 300th post, so we're over that now. Um, yeah, we've interviewed hundreds of women about their experiences working in hospitality. Also, I have a partner, Nancy Mendelson, who worked with me at Lowe's and who's also a communications expert. And she was a professor actually at the Tisch School at NYU. So she brings great insight, and she writes a weekly column that's almost like a kind of an agony aunt column where people sometimes write in, sometimes she writes about a topical, cancel culture or different things like that. So it really is a tremendous resource that I'm glad that exists now, and the feedback has been amazing.
Awesome, awesome. I definitely enjoy sharing it with my students. I teach a graduate contemporary issues course at FIU, and it's just such a great resource to just pull up and say, okay, what's going on? Let's check this out. So tell me, you said that you've interviewed many women in the industry. Congratulations on 300 plus, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
That's incredible. Is there anything happening right now or any contemporary issues that you're kind of zoning in on or noticing, or any repeat patterns right now that you are seeing with women in hospitality?
Repeat patterns. That's an interesting question. I think it's a lot of the things that actually you brought up in the article that you wrote about, different obstacles that women have faced. I feel like with the diversity and inclusion movement, there are barriers that are being, worked on, heavily worked on. And depending on the organization, they're really making progress. There's certainly some issues where there's still a ton of work to be done. So I would say that primarily is around caregiving support. That's, with labor, I should take a step back and just say that, labor continues to be the big challenge for the industry. And this is where also there's an opportunity to make progress because, when companies are pressed to hire people, they need to make working more attractive propositions. So I think it's a really interesting time as we've come off the pandemic. The demand is just through the roof, and so companies have to become more creative and to attract the staff that they need. So one of the challenge, to answer your question, I'd say one of the challenges that still is out there is, support for women that, have a family or have caregiving responsibilities. And then just kind of in a broader scope, like how do we get more women in the funnel to leadership? I mean, I know you're familiar with the Castell research. So there's still basically 1 in 10 of upper management is female. And when you look at the workforce overall, depending on whose statistics you use, it's between 50 and 70%. So constantly asking that question of why is 50 to 70% of the overall workforce female, but yet only 10% is female at the top.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm Leon Thomas here with Miranda Kitterlin Lynch, and our guest for today on Checking In, a Lodging DEI chat, is Emily Goldfischer with Hertelier. Emily, let me ask you this: in terms of getting women into those management ranks, one of the things that I hear a lot for everyone that's underrepresented, let's say in the hotel
Mhm.
business, be it Black, Hispanic, female, is that we need to become more aware. We need to be included in that good old boy network, right? What are some things that folks that want to get into upper management and the executive level, what are some things that need to happen both from that C-suite level, those good old boys that need to let people in, but also for those of us that want to get in, how do we make that happen? Everyone says they want it to, but I got a feeling that some just don't understand what it's going to take. What do you think needs to happen?
I think what is happening is that people have realized, based on research, that diverse organizations are actually more profitable, and that you, as a company, do better to have many different perspectives, whether that's women, whether it's people of color, whether it's non binary. So I think there's a general movement that this is better for the bottom line. And, not that that should be the only reason, but basically, at the end of the day, companies are there to make money. And it's letting that sink in. And I think it is really starting to do that. And so companies are realizing, okay, we need to train people. We need to get rid of, this unconscious bias of that, pattern matching, like this was what a GM looked like. And so that's what I need to look like. That's what I need to look for in a candidate. And that comes down to everything from how you write the job description to, what uniforms people wear and things like that. So I just think that it's a complicated process, and I think that's where the delay is. But I think the first step is awareness, and I think the awareness is really starting to sink in.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as we keep repeating it over and over and shouting it and sharing it, right? That's one of the reasons this podcast is important to Leon and I, to keep that message going, right?
Yeah, I definitely, these conversations and raising that level of awareness is so important.
Let me ask you, so you mentioned that you spent several years working in the industry. How many female GMs did you encounter?
Okay, so I worked for Lowe's Hotels, which I have to say, Jonathan Tish, he and the management there was very insightful. So actually, my bosses were all female. They had quite a few female general managers. It wasn't half, but they definitely had a few. And at the time, that stood out because I worked for Lowe's in the late 1990s and basically the 2000s. So, but Charlotte St. Martin was running all the marketing. Sherry Lavaroni was heading up operations. So, in my particular, and I think that's also why I've been able to start Hotelier, is that I had this personal experience working for a company that was quite progressive in terms of having women in management.
That's fantastic. I believe, a
Yeah.
unique experience, especially for that time. Now, let me follow that with a second question. In your experience working in the lodging industry, how many Black GMs did you encounter, or
Yeah.
GMs of color?
Yeah, I mean, a great person for you guys to have on this website, I mean, on this podcast, would be Valerie Ferguson, who actually I worked with at Lowe's. We overlapped, but she now works for Disney, and I did interview her for Hotelier. And, there is this, uh, there's definitely fewer people of color that work in the upper levels, and I think that that needs to change. And when I spoke to Valerie, one of my favorite quotes of hers was that she said hotels need to be welcoming, and in order to be welcoming, you need to have people of all different shades that are working in a hotel to welcome people, because you want to be able to welcome everybody, and people want to see themselves represented.
That's a
Mhm.
great quote.
Yeah. People wanna see it. Yeah. I'll tell you, when I started in the hotel business way back when, my first general manager was a lady. Very, very sharp, and she took the time to teach us all a lot about the business. Her name was Donna Bryant. That was at
Oh.
the Hampton Inn, Pittsburgh Airport, Hampton Inn number 100. right? I worked for Donna Bryant, and the vice president of the management company at that time was Craig Poole, who you've probably read some things about. He now has a management company in Reading, Pennsylvania, runs the number one double tree in the world. So
Oh,
when I saw Donna, first met Donna, I thought, wow, I thought it was normal to have a female manager,
yeah,
right? And a
yeah,
guy like Craig that was promoting all minorities, I thought it was pretty cool. And as soon as I left that hotel, I'm like, there's no black people, there's no women, except in sales. I work for a
yeah.
management company who insisted that ladies should be in sales. That's where they belong. They should be in sales. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what my first experience was. And I thought, man, this is so different. Um, so here's what I want to talk about. You worked for Lowe's, right?
Mhm.
Tell us some of the positions that you had in Lowe's. So you went to school at Cornell in Ithaca, New York, the home of the Museum of the World, right? That's there. And the home of Ithaca Falls, beautiful falls almost in downtown Ithaca. Am I right about that, Emily? You've been there?
I cannot confirm the Museum of the World. I can't say I've
It's
ever been
there.
there,
I'm gonna ask our
but I
producers to
believe
pull up the
you.
website. It's there. No.
I believe you if you tell me that's true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, Ithaca, the saying about Ithaca is gorgeous because there are
Right.
all these gorges, and then you're on the lake there. So it's a very beautiful place. It gets cold during the winter. But yeah, to be honest, I did work in a few different traditional operations jobs. But then when I graduated, I actually went to work for a PR firm that specialized in travel and tourism. And
Oh,
that
okay.
was really my the beginning of my career. And I went back to school for a year and I studied social psychology, actually here in London at the London School of Economics. And then I ended up going back to work for the same PR firm, who actually Karen Escalera, and she is also based in Miami. So I don't know if you know Karen, but also writes a really good food and lifestyle blog in Miami called Miami Curated. To give Karen a shout out. But do you guys know that blog? Do you know her blog?
I do. Yeah.
I don't.
Did it freeze?
I
Wait,
think
did
we're
I
good. Go
lose you
ahead,
Okay.
guys?
Miranda.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, I do
there
know the
you are.
blog. I like it a lot, and I'll be
Oh,
back in Miami next week, so I'm gonna check out some of the restaurants that have been highlighted. Um, I want to ask you, so you and I were
yeah,
talking
she's
before
good.
you and I were talking before the show about that Fortune article, and the title is Black Women and the Glass Cliff. I was supposed to
Yes.
bring some kind of black girl magic. And I saw that you did share it on Hertelier also. Tell me your thoughts when reading that article.
Yeah, it definitely raised my awareness of this idea of the one and like the one. I think did she say the one and only? Like when you're the only person in the room, and then also these layers of expectation, and yeah, that idea that they're going to bring this black girl magic, and that it's a lot of pressure, and that oftentimes women of color are brought into a situation where there's a lot of risk involved. It's not a slam dunk in any way. So there's just a lot of expectations, and I think the pressure to succeed is quite high without a lot of the support that maybe other people would get.
Right, definitely. Liana and I have talked previously on the show and one on one about how many times people of color feel the need to work harder, never take a day off, always be dressed above and beyond, for example. Did you feel working in the industry as a female, did you feel that as well? That you could never just kind of take a day off or come in casual or uh, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I can't say that that was my personal experience. Like I said, I worked in a heavily female team. I was in the marketing department. I had female bosses. It was more unusual actually to have a guy in our department. Um, but I did work very closely with the CEO on his, on the communications and there were pressures, I guess, in that way, but I didn't attribute it to the fact that I was a woman. I think it was just the role.
Gotcha.
I'm Leon Thomas with Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. You're here watching Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. Our guest today is Emily Goldfischer with Hertelier. So, Emily, let's take the conversation away from work. We just
Okay.
talked about, do you always feel the need to work too much, to work a lot, and all of that stuff. What do you do for fun? Like, what's your recreation? What are your hobbies? Tell me, let us learn a little about you away from work. What do you do?
Oh, okay, thanks. Well, what do? I work on Hertelier. That's a big part of what I do. And then I live in London. We travel a lot. I also, like I said, I'm a travel writer. So a lot of what I write about is food and drink and hotels in London. And then, I love London. I love being a tourist in this city. We do a
Uh-huh.
lot of, going to museums, uh, walking along the Thames, going to Hyde Park, concerts,
Okay. All right.
theater.
Okay. Now, I have a follow-up before I hand it over to
Okay.
Miranda. You said you like food. Have you had a crab cake before? I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. Have you ever had a crab cake?
I have, and I've actually had them in Baltimore.
Ah, yes. Then you
Uh,
had a real crab cake. Yeah.
and it was good. And I wish I could remember the name of the place, but it was delish.
Okay. All right. Good.
I like crab cakes. I also like, speaking of Maryland, when you go to the kind of the Annapolis area and you get the crabs that you eat with the hammer.
Yeah.
What
The
do you call that? It's just like
steamed
crabs.
crabs. Yeah, that's
Steamed
it.
crabs,
Crabs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love
You love
those.
that. All right, right on. You can come back on this show anytime. You're
That was the
welcome.
right answer?
You're welcome. That was the home run answer there, Miranda.
I just have one last question that I like to ask all of our guests, and that is, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Oh, what would I tell my 20-year-old self? You know what? I never would have predicted I would be doing what I'm doing now. So I think I would tell her, don't worry about it. It's all going to work out fine.
I'm going to go look in the mirror and tell myself that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, yeah, we all need a bit of positive self-talk every day.
Yeah. Right on.
Awesome.
Emily,
Thank you.
thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I've so enjoyed our conversation and I enjoy your show. So thank you for having me on it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Everybody listening, go check out Hertelier.
Yeah. Please do that.
Okay.
Let's bring on our studio host, Oren Stewart. Hey, Oren.
Hello, everyone. What an amazing show. Thank you once again for joining us here at Checking In, a lodging DEI chat. I am your studio host, Oren Stewart. Please stay tuned for our next episode. Take care.